Hi. Like you said, I'm Sean Chappell. I've been pretty much raised in this church and other churches around here. I grew up in a Christian family. Didn't believe myself, just went because my parents. I was in an accident. I really, about, was it a week, maybe 2 weeks before the accident, I had renounced my faith, and I thought I was the smartest guy in the world because this great realization came over me that God's for weak people, and I'm not weak, and I don't need a crutch. I didn't need anything to lean on, and I just couldn't believe how stupid people were to read that and believe such an open-ended book, and just, it was like, I don't know, I thought I had it all figured out for some reason. And about a week later, I rolled a tractor over, and the Lord, He'd been calling me for years. Ever since I knew that there was something that He wanted to do with my life, and I just didn't want to admit it because I'm my own person and not be on a stage talking to people in front of a church. It was definitely never part of my plan. I never wanted to have anything to do with the Christian life, basically, because it seemed boring. I thought I was way too cool for that. So, anyways, I kept turning my back and closing the door, and then He finally knocked me down so that I couldn't close the door. I rolled the tractor over, and they weren't really sure what happened to me. It somehow dislodged something in my back. Either a piece of my spine was broke off, or some mucus around my discs or something. But whatever it did, it blocked a blood vessel and ended up causing me to have a stroke of the spinal cord, which is really uncommon, and they had a hard time diagnosing me. So I got in the accident, and my wife told me I should go to the hospital, and I was way too cool to go to the hospital because I'm very prideful and way too tough to go to the hospital and have them say that there's nothing wrong with me. So I didn't go. I couldn't sleep at night. I was trying to sleep sitting up, but I had this pain. It's right at this level, which is right where my injury was, go figure, right in the backside of me. It feels like someone had dug meat hooks into my back and was pulling on my skin. Because I have like an extreme nerve damage there, so it's all my pain is right there. And then from there down, I lost feeling on the whole left side of my body. I didn't want to tell anybody because I thought it would go away and I would walk it off or something. So I think about a week went by, and my wife yelled at me every day to go to the hospital. So I finally went and checked out an urgent care where the doctor told me that I had muscle spasms that were pinching my sciatic nerve and causing me the numbness. Not to worry about it, just take some muscle relaxers and I should be okay. So a day, maybe 2 days later, I started really losing a lot more. I wasn't able to lift my leg much higher than that, and then my right leg really started going bad where I was just kind of dragging my feet around. So that was a Friday, I believe, and I left work after about 3 or 4 hours, which was something that I didn't ever do. Ever. I don't think I've ever called in sick. I chopped my finger off on the job about a year before that and waited till the end of the day to go to the hospital and sew it back on. I don't miss work. That's what men do, you know. My vision of a man has always been, I grew up without a father, so it was what I made up for myself, and it was that you go to work and you make money for your family, whether you're there for them or not. You support them that way, and that's the only support that you're really needed to do. I guess I was wrong about that, but so this Friday I started to come home. I was in San Diego, and I couldn't drive because I couldn't use my legs very good, so I used a stick to push the gas and brake pedal. I didn't tell my wife about that until just the other day because she would have yelled at me. She can't yell at me now though because I'm up here. So that was a little bit of a sketchy drive. Lucky I didn't hit anybody, I guess, but I guess God had a plan for them too. And I came home on Friday. Told my wife, I think something's wrong with me. I can't move my legs and I can't feel anything. And she thought I'd be all right. And so the next morning I said. It was a Saturday, and I remember I told her, I think I need to take myself to the hospital because I'm too prideful to ask her to drive me to the hospital. And she's so stubborn that she wouldn't take me to the hospital because I didn't actually ask her. I said that I need to go to the hospital, so she didn't take me for the whole day. She just really laughed at me all day with my kids because they said I looked like a drunk. I couldn't walk, and I would fall over, and I was trying to lean against the walls to walk, and it was slowly going away because the vessel that was blocked, like it was choking out the blood flow and, it was killing my spine. So I was just walking around like that. Sunday morning, I woke up, and I lost control of my bowel and bladder. I lost the ability to walk. And so I told my wife, okay, will you take me to the hospital? And she made the kids breakfast, did, I think, 1 or 2 loads of laundry, and then made me eat breakfast, and then made me get in the car by myself, which they were just laughing at me the whole time. I was like dragging myself on the ground almost. And we started going to Desert Hospital because I would rather go there. I just thought I'd be better off. And the exit was closed. We headed towards Eisenhower, and we figured we'll go there. It's a nicer hospital, we think, and I don't know. We got there, and the doctor was like really well groomed and looked like a doctor off like a good show. I was Grey's Anatomy or something. It was McSteamy. So I was stoked. I thought I'm in good hands. And he said that your lower back, your discs are blown out and they're touching your cord, which I didn't even know there was a difference between a spinal cord and a spine at that time. I just thought it was one thing in your back. I guess it's different. He said, I need immediate surgery right now. But he said, we're sorry to tell you we don't take your insurance, so you're going to have to go to Desert. So they threw me in an ambulance. They took me over to Desert Hospital. And this kid that, I don't even know how he has his doctorate degree. But thank God he did. But, he was really young. He looked younger than me, which you can't, I'm not old enough. Okay, maybe I'm old enough to have a doctorate degree. But he was wearing some Van Halen shoes. This is the thing that sticks out the most. And a Megadeth t-shirt. And he had long scruffy hair, and I was like, oh my goodness, really, this guy's going to cut me open? Awesome. And so he's looking at it, and he goes, oh no, it's not that, it's your upper back. You have something right about here. And I go, yeah, that's where it hurts, and that's where I lost all my feeling exactly right there. It was like a rubber band was tied around me, basically. And he was right, it turned out. So lucky they didn't cut me open in the bottom because they probably would have just messed me up. But they weren't sure what was wrong with me, so that was very frustrating. They thought that I had maybe contracted some kind of a viral disease or any excuse they could think of. They kept trying to figure out something because strokes of the spinal cord don't really happen, and they really don't happen to people my age because I'm pretty healthy. I think I'm fit. But I guess technically I'm a quadriplegic. My injury is from C6 to T5, which means I have no control of my back arms, my wrists, my chest, and anything below there. So there's no way I can move my legs or feel anything or walk or do anything like that. It's all dead in there right now. Still, they did an MRI again recently, just out making sure they weren't wrong. And there's a big dead section that you can see. They started taking spinal fluid out. They did a spinal tap for 4 days to make sure they could keep testing the fluid, which is actually your brain fluid also. So when they drain too much, your brain will touch your skull, and that's cool. It's probably one of the worst headaches you can imagine. So they had me on a little tap. I don't know if they made it for me or what, but they had the nurses in there turning me on and off, letting some fluid out every now and then. And they just kept telling me that they weren't sure what was wrong. And that was kind of discouraging. And I was in ICU for 7 days. Looked like that with neck braces and back braces and all kinds of holes poked in me. I'm glad I wasn't afraid of needles at all because practicing on me. They weren't sure. So, they just put me in all these braces because they were like, we don't know what's I just had this peace the whole time that I don't have. I'm a very stressful person. I stress about everything. I stress so much it's not even funny about the stupidest things that don't matter. And, if you'd have probably asked me the day before, are you going to lose, what if you lose your manhood and your feeling and ability to walk and all of this? I probably would have honestly said that I would have committed suicide because that's not something that you want to lose. It's meaning and your pride. You have to have someone help you do everything. And there I was in this position, and I didn't feel that way at all, not even a little bit. I felt just calm and at ease, and I wasn't worried. God just gave me this peace, and I didn't deserve the peace. I deserves to be in that bed, especially for having renounced my faith, so recently. But he just gave me just such a peace, and there were so many people that came to see me. There was just an abundance of people like that I don't even know, and I've never met, and people that, if they did know me, probably had less reason to come and see me and want to help me through this. And people just kept coming. They just kept blessing us in so many ways. I mean, people were watching my kids. They were offering to clean my house, did my yard work even while I was gone. So I was hoping to stay a little longer, but they got like all my yard done except for one corner. Still has weeds in case anybody wants to help out more. It was the blessing to me and my family is just because I never prayed while I was in there, and even to this day, for healing of myself. I never prayed to walk again. I never prayed that I would live. I just once showed me His light, which was like the first day. I just prayed that God would help me to show somebody else His love and His light like I've been shown. All of you and everybody in our church family and all of our friends that I didn't even know were our friends and people that we haven't seen in years, and it's amazing. Like I still can't believe like how many people were there, and my mother-in-law was there more than anybody. I mean, she was there every day. And my wife, she's giving me hand signals right now. She was there from the time they opened to the time they closed. I was trying to get rid of her and she wouldn't go, but she wouldn't leave, and she was there the whole time. It was just amazing. And I lost all my pride, all my dignity, pretty much, like everything. I had no control from my chest flying down, which meant I couldn't even sit up. Once after the second day I was there, I lost everything. Once they finally did think I was ready for therapy, they started just trying to sit me up, and they would hold me and let go, and I guess it was a game, and just watch me fall over because there's no control here. I had nothing. And to me, it didn't seem like, you think of a paralyzed person or someone that you see in a wheelchair and you think like, that's not that bad. I mean, they just can't move their legs. But it's more. And I would get sick. I couldn't hold anything up, and then I would get extremely sick. And when they would try to sit me up, I would get really dizzy and like lightheaded, and my face would turn all white, and I would throw up everywhere. So that wasn't very good. Like I said, I had no control of my bowel and bladder, so my dignity was gone there. And I was wearing a dress with stockings that went to my knees because I had no blood flow. So they had these just like leg warmers or something on my legs all the time. They had this little machine that would like massage my legs, but I couldn't feel it, so I didn't know if it was any good. But it was definitely an experience. My wife and I had no feeling, and she just would check every day to make sure it still didn't feel, and she would beat on me a little bit. And she had a game where she liked to try to see if she could make her perfect handprint on my stomach while I laid there, and slapped me a bunch of times. And I just I can't express enough like how grateful I am for everything that everybody did, and just the love that was given to me through all of you, because it turned my life around completely. Like it's not the miracle of me walking that's been my blessing. Like I said, it's been just the love and the light that was shown to me. And this, we still say, people laugh, but it's the biggest blessing that our family has ever had. Because I was working 6-7 days a week and missing out on so much of my family life, and church life I was looking for an excuse to get rid of that. So that was a good help. And my daughters are 5 and 6. I was missing so much of them, and my wife. And I didn't know, like, we were having a little bit of trouble. We fought a little bit. Like, I know no other married couples do, but we were fighting a bit, and I thought, how could we fight if I'm not even here? But that was what it was. Like, we didn't even know each other, basically. Now I'm home, and I realized that being a husband and being a man isn't necessarily making all this money and trying to be there not being there all the time, sorry. But it is being there for your family and for my daughters. And I got to come and see them graduate from their little kindergarten last year, and it was just so exciting. And they were so happy. They were asking, if we were going to videotape it for Daddy, and I was like, no, I'm going to be there. And they were just so excited about it, just to see the progression. And now I'm at home and I take them to school and I do their hair and I wear an apron and cook, and not good, but I cook. And so that was my pride. I think I had a big thing with that, and the Lord He knew how to take that away from me real quick. And it's still a day-to-day battle with it. I like to think that I'm super awesome because I can do all this myself, but if it were up to me, I'd still be in the wheelchair because you don't have to walk when you're in a wheelchair. And they give me a really comfortable seat and stuff in it, so it wasn't too bad a deal. But that picture there is like one of the first times I was able to stand. And there's so much that you take for granted in life. I mean, we were really excited. My wife reminded me about how excited we were the first time I moved a toe. And it was like stupid. I wiggled my toe a little bit, and we were like so excited, and we were yelling, and we're so excited. I wanted to show all the physical therapists, look at my toe, and I couldn't do it again. I could do it like once a day because that was all my energy, and I was like, oh man. So I'd have to wait the next day and get like an audience ready and be like, look at my toe, and it would move a little bit, and did it really move? And I had no feeling, so I wasn't sure. I was like thinking I was maybe seeing things because I was seeing things for a while. They had me on some drugs that made me hallucinate. And we didn't know what it was for a while. A couple weeks after I was on it, we figured out that something was wrong. I was trying to eat cell phones and thought people were littler than me. So it got a little rough there, but I just had a peace the whole time it was amazing. And like I said, people were bringing me food and stuff, and it was great. I was laying on my back with a neck brace trying to eat a California burrito. It was falling all over my face. I remember getting it in my eyes and stuff, and my wife was like wiping it off, and I had to relearn how to do everything. They taught me how to put my shoes on. They had to watch me. When I finally got to the point where I could bathe myself, they had to watch me bathe to make sure I could get all the spots that needed to be gotten, and take me to the gym. And it was, that was the meeting. It was like, all your dignity was gone, and I guess that was what I needed, though. And the Lord knew. I didn't know, but I know now. I don't know what else He has planned for me. I hope it's a little easier than the rest of it, but I'm trying to just let Him know that the door is open now, so you don't have to do this to me again. I was fortunate. I mean, because I did lose all my feelings, so my pain wasn't that great. The meat hook thing's not cool. I still get that actually, but not as bad. And everybody was always like, "Oh, are you in pain?" And I would see all these other people that were in the hospital, and they were just in so much pain. And I was like, "Man, I'm so glad that I have no feeling, because I don't know if I have pain or not." And so that was a huge blessing to me. And everything else has just been the people and the love was all that really did everything for me. So I just want to thank everybody. And I'm just trying to learn now. And this was one of the first times I started trying to walk on these parallel bars. They have to hold my knees in and my ankles and everything, because walking is a lot more than just one foot in front of the other. I didn't know that. They forgot to tell me, so I had to learn. But they would have to hold my legs in, and I would walk with my arms, mostly arms here. It was just, they had all kinds of braces on me, and I got. But the time we left the hospital was in the end of April, and we were discussing how we were going to afford to buy a standing machine. It's a machine they make because your body needs to be upright. For your organs are designed to be upright, and you get in it, and it's you pump it with your arm, and it will stand you up. And we were trying to figure out how we were going to afford this thing, or how I could get my father-in-law to make me one or something, because Dave's got something in there he could make it out of in his garage, I'm sure. But that was only a few months ago, and I mean, I can walk. And and the Lord's He's already helped me to let Him use me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Two different ways. I actually went back to the hospital the other day, just kind of randomly. And I went in, and everybody, I just wanted to see, like, maybe if they recognize me or remember me. I'll walk in and be like, "Oh, look at me." But the nurses, they all remembered me. There's one of the times where I was really stoked I could do that with my leg. When I held it up, I could I could make it rock like that, and we were all really excited about that. It's stupid now, but it was really cool to me. I was super excited. But I went in, and they were all like really excited to see me and stuff, of course, and they're like amazed. Oh, you can walk and all this stuff. And then they're like, we have to go take you to the rehab ladies. So they took me into the rehab ladies, and they're like, wow, how did you know you were supposed to be here today? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, we've been thinking about you, and they were talking about me for a couple of weeks. I guess there was a lady and her husband that were in there. The lady had sustained an injury similar to mine, not nearly as severe, but she lost, a lot of her function and stuff. And she was being released that day, a couple hours after I got there, actually. And they were having a real hard time with coping with it because you lose a lot. It's a lot more than what people can see. Your insides don't work right. And there's a lot of things like that. And they were having a lot of trouble. So they're like, would you feel comfortable talking with them? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I went and I talked to them for a little while, and they were crying, and the husband was crying, and they were just so grateful that I talked to them. And they kept saying, like, thank you so much for coming and taking out of your day to talk to us. And I was like, I was just driving by, I just stopped by, and they were just, like, oh my gosh, you can walk. And they wanted like exact dates of how long did it take you to do this and this. And I had to, I was trying to not be like, you're going to walk, because I don't know. Maybe she won't. But the fact of the matter is, like, it gave them hope. It gave them a little bit of hope, which helped them. I didn't mean to make them cry, but they did. I just felt like I hope I helped them out a little bit. And so that's pretty much it. I just want to thank everybody so much once again. As my life is completely changed, and my priorities are different, and I'm trying to seek the Lord and let Him use me like I know He was wanting to. So hopefully, if He's trying to use anybody else, you guys will just let Him use you and don't make Him do this to you, because it's not as fun as it looks. That's it. Thanks.
Wife Camille, who was there prodding and poking. Father God, we come before you, and Lord, we thank you for Sean. Lord, we thank you for what you are doing in his life. And Father, he is a miracle. He is a walking miracle, Father. To see where he's come from, Lord, and all that he went through. Father, and just through all of it, that he trusted you. And
Amen.
How much would that cost me to have you teach my wife how to do that when I come into her room? There's a difference between me and Sean on what God has done with us. Sean can remember his. I had to go talk to other people to find out what happened with me. A lot of you know, and that's why I'm reading notes. A lot of you know I was on a journey that changed my perspective. Some of what I intend to share with you is what happened, what was done by some amazing doctors, Lord and Savior. May 20th, I showed up to work. Well, I got ahead of myself. I made my wife get out of bed and go to work. And then I got up about an hour later, and I got dressed and went to work. That day lasted for 4 weeks. I was not aware of time or anything else that had happened due to the fact that I was taking a nun. What I'm about to share with you is what people who put their lives on hold have told my wife and I. Before I start, I want everyone to know that our God is an absolutely I will first share the seriousness of the situation, the doors that were opened by God, and the recovery process that nobody thought I would go through. When I came into work, I shared with them that I wasn't feeling well, but I was going to be in the office all day, so I'd be okay. About noontime, I asked Israel to take me to the hospital because it was plain worse. We started to leave campus, and I got sick, real sick. I was taking HDMC, and that's when my journey begins. As many of you know, I have the awesome privilege of being one of the sheriff's chaplains for the Morongo. As I was on my way to the hospital, somebody let the sheriff's station know I was being rushed to the hospital. When we arrived, I was greeted by some deputies that were concerned about me. As you can see by the pictures behind me, they never pass up a photo op to be used against you at a later date. Or more. Oh, it only gets better from here, folks. If you'll notice the handcuffs on the left hand, like I said, they use it against you at a later date. After a short time in the ER, I was diagnosed with acute pancreatitis, and I slipped into my 4-week nap. As I got worse, people from our church family came to pray with my wife. For the first 48 hours, my body went into kidney and liver failure, septic shock, and a heart attack. And the doctors were giving me less than a 20%. Nobody knew what God had on his mind. The doctors at HDMC knew I was getting worse and had to get to a level 1 trauma center, but nobody had a bed available. Once one was found, they had to call a special trauma ambulance from San Bernardino to transfer me to Desert Hospital. When they saw me, they refused to transport me to cardiac arrest. This is where God started putting people in our lives and to start his plan into motion. My wife had texted Kathy White, a very dear friend from the church, a picture of my monitor, and she came to the hospital to help due to the fact that she is a trauma nurse. She spoke to the ambulance attendant, and I was on my way to Desert Hospital. I later found out she told them they had a choice, let me die or take a chance on. I also found out, and Peg, you blushed, my wife had to sign a release that if I died in transit, that they would not be held responsible. Before I go on, I want to thank God for putting such a strong. God told her I would be okay. The decision she made during. When I arrived at Desert Hospital, Dr. Gonzalez and Dr. Lowe were my doctors. Although Dr. Lowe was the only doctor I met, I owe a huge debt to Dr. Gonzalez for his aggressive treatments. My triglyceride level was over 4,000. It was actually higher than that, but they can't measure any higher. 150 or below is normal. My cholesterol was 1440. Normal is below 200. and just for good measure, my diabetes was way out of whack. My blood was poisoned by septic shock. My wife wrote to me every day, out of the coma, I would understand just. Heart rate stayed above 140 all night and climbed to the one. Kathy arrived just after Pastor Gerald. You didn't stay rested very long. You started crashing around. You were not making any sense of it all. Pastor Gerald read scripture to you, and he turned to put his Bible down, and when he turned back towards you, he held your hands. You lifted your head up, looked him square. God is good. When Kathy showed up, she suddenly let the nurse know that you need to be bagged, if not ventilated. Pastor Gerald and Kathy were both trying to get you to Desert Regional as soon as possible, or at least into the ICU at H. At noon, they let you into the ICU, where you were immediately ventilated and put on ice and under a cooling blanket and hooked up to everything imaginable. I was then told that you were into septic shock. At 5:30 that evening, the critical care ambulance arrived to take you to the desert, but when they realized how serious you were, they would not transport you due to cardiac arrest. The options were weighed that either we take the risk of having a heart attack en route, or the fact you were so critical that you would not. That you got to a level 1 trauma. I signed all the necessary papers to accept that responsibility. Abby told me to go home and get clothes because I wouldn't be there for a while. I wouldn't be back. When I arrived at Desert, they hooked me up to a machine. Taking my blood out of one leg, running it through the machine, back into the other leg. I was also on 24-hour dialysis. The doctor's biggest concern is every time they change, so fragile it could possibly kill me. My heart rate was off the charts, and it seemed like I was like the stock market in a downward spiral. Things were not looking good. Mid-morning, Dr. Lowe came into the waiting area with Sherry Geisinger and Peggy were waiting for shift change to end, and that's when he told them that I had a list. I was still in septic shock and had a very slim chance of surviving that. This is the journal entry for that day. No changes, long day, freezing cold in ICU. You still have a very high fever. I've been keeping the cold compresses going. You have been off sedation for almost 2 days. Dr. Gonzalez is very concerned. Just before they took you down for a CAT scan, a nurse told me it would be beneficial. That is when I told him that is. Over the next 10 days, there were lots of moments when it looked like I was going home. Then I will respond a little and things would get a little bit better, but then I would go 2 steps back. When I was first in the ICU, Fem and Craig made some CDs. That is the only memory I have. Peggy told me when she would arrive at shift change, the nurses would be humming worship songs. During the blood cleaning, Peggy played the same song over and over, and it means a lot to both of us. I've asked Craig to play it for you.
if I don't praise your name. Even the rocks will cry out if I don't praise your name. Even the mountains will shout if I don't praise your name. Even the rocks will cry out if I don't praise your name. And even the mountains will shout, and even the rocks will cry out. I will praise you, oh my Redeemer. I will praise you, oh my Redeemer. You are worthy. You are worthy, Lord. You are worthy to be praised.
And Pastor Bob. While I was not conscious, a certain pastor, who I won't mention his name, tried to take advantage of me. I share a rack in the cafe with this certain pastor, who I will not name, and I'm being told that he leaned down next to my ear and he said, "Hey, Crump, don't look too good for you. I'll just take all your cooking supplies and use them." I was told that my eyes started moving rapidly back and forth. When I talked to this certain pastor about this, he said he was doing this for a medical reason. He was trying to bring me out of the coma. He almost did. Peggy wrote, "They're continuing with the weaning process off the ventilator. Today you are more expressive with facial expressions and shoulder movements. You are still on life support with mild sedation and still on dialysis, which makes you very susceptible to infection, so no visitors until the doctor feels good about it. Although I was not allowed any visitors, my church family was at the hospital around the clock in the event my wife." The next few days were status quo, and then a change, unfortunately, not for the good, as Peggy's journal explains. Most of the day was spent getting breathing treatments and using the... Pastor Jackie came to visit you. Today you started to go into ICU psychosis, but the good news is your kidneys started to work a little bit. Due to downsizing, they moved you to a different ICU during the night. The definition of this ICU psychosis is patients become temporarily psychotic. The symptoms vary greatly. The onset of ICU psychosis is rapid and is upsetting and frightening to the families and the patient. Sleep deprivation may be a major contributing factor. Even though I was responding slightly to voices, not resting properly, and that is what brought on the ICU. The next few days were bumpy at best, and Peggy spent them putting cold compresses on my forehead for my fever and trying to keep me calm. I was in full ICU. Dr. Lowe, once again, was not very optimistic about my prognosis. He wanted to operate to remove the dead tissue. Risky, and I would not do surgery. Dr. Lowe met with Peggy and Sherry Geisinger the next morning and told her the team of doctors had decided surgery was not an option due to my frail condition. Peggy wrote in her journal that God had once again guided the doctors and reaffirmed that this was in His. Next week was full of little victories, and I got a little bit better each day, but I was not out of the woods yet. As the weeks went on, I got better and moved from ICU to a regular room for 2 weeks. Then to the skilled nursing floor where they were preparing me to be able to go home. I spent 2 weeks learning how to do so much that we take for granted. I had to learn how to feed myself, how to walk, and how to do the things that we do in our everyday life. I was discharged and went home with a wheelchair and a walker, and I was ready to take on the world. The hospital would not release me without someone being with me 24/7. Peggy's friend Catherine, and I always butcher her name, Chayoti or whatever it is, stepped up with my stepson, John, to take care of me. I was a handful. I couldn't even stand on my own, but I do thank God for the people that He put in our lives during this journey. Pastor Bob took me to All Staff Day at the church, and Pastor Gerald had been talking to Peggy, and he heard that I was making my final arrangement in the hospital. And I said, yes, I was. And he said, I heard you wanted to be cremated. And I said, yes, sir, that's true. And then he said, but I heard something about you wanted your ashes spread at Fenway Park because you're a Red Sox fan. I said, yes, sir. He said, are you sure you're going to go to heaven? I think he's got something against the Red Sox. Anyway, I spent the next 8 days at home, but ended up back in the hospital. The surgery that the doctors wanted to do had to be done immediately. I spent 3 days having tests done, and it was determined that the infection had to be removed, or else I would die. This doctor comes in and introduces himself as the surgeon who was going to do the operation. Dr. Jameson turned out to be a very honest person. I didn't necessarily want to hear what he told me, but I appreciated his honesty. I felt totally comfortable with him and knew that I was in good hands, not just because he was a strong man, but he had a manner about him that was a subtle confidence. Dr. Jameson told me it was not going to be an easy surgery, and I may not make it through it. Once again, Peggy and I turned to prayer, and I was beginning to wonder if God was tired of me asking for His help. In pre-op, I said my goodbye to Peggy, and as I drifted off into La La Land, I was totally at peace. The next thing I remember is waking up and seeing my wife's beautiful face. I spent the next few days in ICU, and it was sort of a homecoming, but none of the nurses believed that I was still alive. They thought I had died and moved on. As my healing progressed, I went home after 2 weeks. My recovery has been slow, but I have so much to be thankful for. Our pastoral staff here at the church spent every moment they could with Peggy during the time I spent in the The Lord has blessed us with prayers, gifts of love and support. We cannot begin to. I know a lot of you here tonight tried to come and see me away, and it just blows me away that you would take the time out of your life. You are truly our family. Captain Donnie Miller from the Sheriff's Department was at the hospital constantly. Eric Brewer from the CHP was by our side just in case we needed anything. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Bob and Debbie Wagner, the Geisingers, the Bowles, the Woods, the Whitleys. Of course, my favorite pastor and his wife, Bob and Marianne Wagner. He made me put that in there. Okay? For your love and support through all of this. And when I got home, I went through the why me's. I talked to Pastor Gerald, Pastor Bob, and Pastor Fem about it. And they said they have no idea why, but it's part of God's plan. And just, but they said it a little nicer, really. So anyway, a couple nights later, I was asleep and I had this dream. And I was sitting in my favorite recliner, and I was talking, and this voice was talking back to me, and I said, it doesn't matter because it's my plan. The only thing. A couple of side notes: when my kidneys and my liver failed, there were deputies asking how they could donate part of their liver and a kidney to me. Men and women put their lives on the line each and every day, and they are some of the most caring. Dr. Lowe and I were talking before I went home, and I thanked him for saving my life. I also told him he had a lot of help from the great physician, and he said, "You're right, he's the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end." God once again showed me that he was there, and it was in his hands. A certain pastor that I mentioned earlier also leaned down in my ear while I was in the coma and said, "Grump, you're probably not going to make it. Can I have your golf clubs?" When I confronted him about this, he said he didn't want my golf clubs to be lonely. As my recovery continues, I am filled with little victories, like being able to drive again, walking, going up and down stairs without having to hold on to a handrail, and most of all, being able to wrap my arms around the one person who shows everybody the true meaning of strength. I want to take a second and explain this picture to you. When I was at my worst in ICU, that was the only part of my body that my wife could touch, was my feet. Psalm 19, verse 14 used to be the Bible verse I lived by. Let the meditation of your mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. While I was in the hospital, it occurred to me that I had been guilty of not totally trusting our Lord. So I have added a new verse to live by, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. I have spent the last 23 years with the relationship with my stepson that at the best could be called rocky. If nothing else comes from this, God has repaired our relationship. God has made me appreciate my wife more, and I have realized that life on earth can end in a moment. So in closing, I ask everyone to do several things. Number one, get closer to God and love your family. Someone you need to make amends with in your life, get on with it. Your life will be better for it. There's my buddy. God bless. And I have asked the worship team to close with Amazing Grace, because that is the one thing that God gives us abundantly.